I regret not hitting record even sooner, because talking about you having a mullet and an afro.
Oh yeah, we all did.
That's the hard hitting stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was that was a long time ago. Well, I appreciate you making time for me. Pat's just a big super fan, and he's like, you gotta get on in front of Ted, and just last year was crazy. I know we chit chat a little bit, and now I got some time, and I'm gonna get out there in the public eye. It's about time to just share our story, who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I actually pride myself. I like being the guy that no one knows. Well, so this is something hard for me.
Sure. I mean, yeah, it's fascinating. I don't think I could be incorrect. I don't think we have met in person. I got into pro cycling in 2006, and I have certainly known your name for the better part of the past dozen or more years, but were it not for Google and Googling you, I wouldn't be able to put a face to the name. So you've done a great job of being there without being there front and center, like many team owners are.
Yeah, no, this isn't about me. It's about, our mission, our athletes, our partners. And I really believe in that. But as the world changes, mm-hmm. People want to know more about who we are. And I think this is a perfect time to kind of share my story and start with you and, continue.
Yeah.
Path, but I appreciate the time. There's a lot here, and I've been doing this a long time. Kind of crazy, absolutely crazy. I've been doing it so long, and sure. I love it every single day. I love what I do.
Nice. Well, yeah, let's dive into some of those details. So I think here in America, and probably in a heck of a lot of places around the world, a lot of people say that they want to be in professional sports. So I believe it that through my life, I wanted to be a professional hockey player. And I joke that I wish I was a professional hockey player, and I somehow landed in the sport of cycling and have made a career of that. So at what point do you say to yourself, I want to be the owner of a professional cycling team?
I can answer it, pretty clearly. I grew up in Minneapolis. I live here in Minneapolis, although we live in the winter, sometimes in LA, and we always travel in the business, that we're in. We're constantly in motion, but
sure.
Minneapolis is my home. I grew up here. I was kind of a dorky kid. I really didn't like school. I really didn't like playing football. I tried everything. I tried football, soccer, cross country running, blew out my knee. And the doctor said, maybe you should ride a bike. And the first time on the bike, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And went out as far as I could, called my father and said, I'm out here. And he's like, well, how are you getting back? I didn't think about that.
Sure.
About 40 miles outside the city, and I rode back. So, I always was attracted to the sport, but, I also remember times where, reading all the magazines and reading all the newspapers. In those days, there wasn't much. The Winning magazine and the Vela News that came out maybe, once every 6 times a year or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just, I don't know how many times it came out, but I was always fascinated about what makes a team tick. And I think, I didn't go to school for any of this. I actually started this around the time of, some people are in college, but I always liked business. I'm very entrepreneurial. I love it. And I love marketing. I just always had this sense of, how do we get our brand up in front of somebody or how do we promote the value? I remember I took a college class in business, and it just popped in my head just now. I had to be 22, and I did it on the sport of cycling and how to sell it and the brand impressions, and probably made up half the stuff, in front of the class. It was probably the only A I got, but I remember giving that. And, this is always something I always wanted to do. I did try to become a professional. It didn't happen. Times were different back then. And certainly, as it takes a lot to be pro. I wanted nothing. I tell Jonas all the time, Jonas Carney, our director, all I wanted to be was a pro. 22, 21, 23, 24, but it just wasn't meant to be.
What was that? Dive into that for a minute. What was the climate of road racing then? Because even within the past, call it dozen years, we've seen such an interesting flow of domestic road racing.
Yeah.
What was the scene when you were in that late teens?
It was absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge. Amateur racing was mean, I grew up in Minneapolis. I was racing all over the Midwest. I then moved out east, and as you know, up and down the coast. There's, on any given day, you could race 3-4 times a day, I think.
Yeah.
If you plan it right, between the crits and some of the road races. But, definitely 3 times you could find Pennsylvania, Maryland, and DC. You could hit some circuits, some crit circuits there. But yeah, I mean, growing up here in Minneapolis, we had I think it was a Tuesday night time trial or a Tuesday night crit. You had a Thursday night time trial or crit. I forget what days it was. And then Saturday, Sunday, you had road races. And they were distant. So 4 times a week growing up in, a very cold, wintry environment like Vermont, where you are. It was pretty big. And I was a junior. We had juniors racing and we had junior fields in Minnesota here in the Midwest. And then you had Super Week and Starved Rock Classic down south. You could go into Canada. I remember Cobblestone Classic in Winnipeg. And then, you could go as far south as Kentucky to race, or you could go west. So it was a lot going on. And we also in Minneapolis always had this history of professional racing. Norwest Cup, DuPont Series was here. This is before the Tour DuPont. Michelob had kind of a crit series, and one of the stops was here. A little bit before my time, but there was a lot of racing going on. So, when I got exposed to it at a very young age, I loved it, and it wasn't easy for me either. Like when I say I wasn't gifted, I wasn't, I just loved it. And you fast forward a few years, I had gotten married at the time. So this is, just to put in perspective, this is 1995.
Okay.
I got a call. And, do you want to run this team? You'd be great at it. You get along with everybody. And I'm like, let me think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. This is what I want to do. Thinking, how to develop sponsorships. Actually, it was in your neck of the woods, Fat City Cycles.
Oh, no kidding.
Working with Serrata. So I ran in 95, I ran Fat City's mountain bike team, and we created a road team.
No kidding. So presumably you're wearing every hat, right? I mean, like you are seeking talent, and you're creating the schedule, and you're creating the itinerary, or, I mean, you're doing everything.
It was everything. I mean, I have a memory of, I had a clipboard, I had on stopwatch, radio, all in my hands at a mountain bike race. But no, it was everything. That first year we didn't have a real schedule where we had mechanics and you're moving cars around. It was, okay, riders, you go here, here, and here, and we'll set up airline tickets and doing the logistics. And I did all that. This is before the internet access, where like you can do it online. Like I would go to a travel agent, or I would do it myself. And then that second year, Fat City went away, and I said, I want to go and find a job running teams. And it was the craziest idea. I was a young guy. This is what I want to do. And I got a job, this is really going back for your listeners. It was Ross Bicycles. They had a team called Ross Jeep, Jeep Automobiles. And Ross was, I believe, the first competitive mountain bike to come out in the market in the 80s. So, had this very historic brand that kind of was bought, repurchased, and they wanted a team. And that was out in Long Island, where they were headquartered. And I got endless stories, and everybody there was great. But, I was working for a bike company to run their team, and I was going to Norba Nationals. I'd never been to really a Norba before. And dealing with athletes that I'd never met, like downhill. I'd never seen a downhill before, like a downhill competition. It was crazy. And I had to bring in mechanics, and that's where it really elevated, hitting the Norba circuit. So places like Mount Snow in your backyard,
right down the road.
The Swenson brothers, they're from New Hampshire. I don't know, Pete and
Carl. Yeah, they went to the same school my brother did.
Carl. Pete and Carl, if you're listening, I mean, they're going to be chuckling if they hear this, but no, they were great. And, just other riders, Terry Tonette came out of BMX for downhill. It was just crazy times. I mean, I think about it. I mean, going to Big Bear for the first time, I'm a Minnesota kid, and I'm like, man, I'm far from the world. And then you're in the mountains and you're with downhillers and cross country riders. And in those days, the mountain bike circuit was pretty set. Like, these were guys who've been doing this for a long time, very competitive, very, like, the mountain bike scene was hard to break into for me at that time. But it was fun. I was young.
Yeah.
I liked it. Well, I learned a lot. I mean, those were really good days. And I ran mountain bike teams roughly almost 10 years.
So, I mean, this is a really interesting time to be talking about, because I'm going to be jumping ahead of myself, and I might put a pause on this question even as I ask it. The time you're talking about is the heyday of mountain biking. It's popular, it's burgeoning, it's still new, but then you also have these brands that you just mentioned. Jeep is there, the Volvo Cannondale days. I mean, these major brands. We look back in hindsight, I wouldn't say it's 2020 because it's not perfect, but it's so interesting to see the prolific rise of mountain biking, the fall sometime, and call it the 2000s, and now it's back on this major rise.
Yeah.
We're looking at, the same sort of thing in gravel, and people come to me and frequently ask, hey, how do we keep all the cool aspects of gravel in this sport to keep it pure? And I'm like, I go a couple ways. I'm a product of road racing. I want to see road racing exist and thrive and kill it. Yeah. Obviously, we're in a really low point in the climate of road racing here in America. I mean, European road racing is sort of as big as ever. And so I say, we can look back at that period of mountain biking and try to take the lessons there. But I mean, you're the person to ask. It's like,
yeah, I was there, and it's interesting because I was at Sea Otter this spring.
Yeah,
I don't know, a month ago, and it is so funny for me seeing people who were in the period of mountain biking, and they come up to me and they're like, "Are you still doing what you're doing? That's amazing. That's unbelievable. That's incredible." And some of them actually, the industry leaders of those days, who are into other sectors of business and things like that, who still follow what I do, which just absolutely shocks me.
Yeah.
But like Rick Sutton, when I see Rick Sutton, who ran Sea Otter, the founder of Sea Otter, he ran it. Rick's the amazing promoter, amazing guy. I mean, he's like, I can't believe you're still doing this. Yeah. And some other people too. So it's, I was there, I was young, I was really young. After Ross Jeep, it became Barracuda. The following year, I said, I'm going to do this on my own, kind of like how we're structured now, create a company. I didn't really know yet. Like, you're in the throes of it. You don't really know what you're creating so much, but go out, get the sponsor, have the sponsor, work with their agencies, and be kind of a standalone, not a factory team. And that's when we landed Cadillac under the Catera brand.
Oh, dang.
And this was really interesting. God, those were great days. I was young, creative, maybe shot from the hip a little too much with my ideas, our ideas as a business. But going to Cadillac, which was this traditional golf, tennis, older generation, launched a sports car. Didn't last too long, but it was called the Catera, the Cadillac that zigged. That was the tagline.
Yeah.
And wanted something that would attract younger consumers and demographics to look at Cadillac. And mountain biking got in front of them, and it was highly successful.
Nice.
It was great working with everybody at Cadillac. I learned a tremendous amount. They were just blown away. Like, having Cadillac executives come to a World Cup in Napa. I mean, I don't know why I let them do this, but they're like, what can we do to help? And somebody would say, well, can you carry this bike? And our mechanics are cleaning bikes. And, you have the general manager of all Cadillac, scrubbing bikes with us. They just loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then they would bring their families, and they love being around the younger side of our sport and being truly a fan of what we were doing. Those were great days. And for me, going to Napa, and then all of a sudden we're doing World Cups, really racing at a high level. And this is 98, 99, right when mountain biking's kind of turning on the downward spiral.
Yeah.
And you could see it. You could really see it. You could see it from the support. You could see it from the industry.
Can you point a finger? Like at what are those key causes that caused it to fall?
You know what? I'm sure there's people out there that would and say, you know, is this or that. No, I can't. I think it's just, you know, there's a few things that happened. One, 2000, we had a recession.
Yep.
It was a General Motors strike that actually occurred. People, a long General Motors strike. So the automobile industry changed a little bit. You know, there was reductions in staff and operational marketing expenses. 9/11 certainly changed. I clearly remember those days. No one knew what our future would be, kind of similar to what it was first quarter 2020. You just didn't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the industry changed. I think the habits of the consumer may have changed a little bit. I can't point a finger, but I also think road cycling kind of started to cramp up again.
Yeah.
There was a pop down and then road cycling went up in the early 2000s. And I miss those days. I really do. It was, I'll tell you, it's a lot easier running a mountain bike team. You're in the same place, same hotel for a week.
Yeah.
Your trucks don't move around. You're not doing transfers. And the crowds, the Napa, Sea Otter, Cactus Cup, Big Bear. I mean, these were incredible, iconic. Mount Snow. I mean, I rode the Mount Snow course once, thought I was going to die, but the crowds were incredible. The last time I was at Mount Snow was 99. Lance Armstrong, after he won the Tour, came to Mount Snow and raced.
Yeah.
And you know, put on a good show with our guys and a few others. So, it was a real circuit. It was, you know, where athletes could make a lot of money, you know, racing for their countries at the Olympics and nationals and international competition, but also trade teams and Volvo, Katera, GT, Trek always had a strong presence. I mean, those were good times, really good times. Mercury Tour, that was another thing in Steamboat.
Yep.
Len Pennington put on unbelievable race. And there was television. That's the other thing. It was always television for these races.
That's a game changer. Okay, keeping with the chronology, how about walk me through that next decade? Because my reintroduction to you and your name and your affiliations, I believe, begin with Kelly Benefit Strategies. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is accurate. Yeah. I actually, our mountain bike days ended. We actually, as a business, ran BMX and snowboard competition, demo teams, all that fun stuff, action sports. Little different for me. I thought my God, if I was 32, 31, I thought I was really old going to those events. So I wonder how I feel now. But going to the X Games and seeing our athletes perform at a high level, we actually had an athlete win. Bruce Chrisman, great guy, great athlete. But it was really different for me. And I was going through somewhat of a kind of a hard time in my life. I went through a divorce. I was living in Maryland at the time. It's common, you know, you kind of think like, was cycling a part of it, just that, traveling, you know, these are the days where you didn't have access to a cell phone and phones and you're traveling all over the world. But it hit me living there. I want to, and I use the expression with pride, build, you know, bring the band back together, you know, build it and it will come. And I was working night jobs and I said, hey, I want to build a company that runs a professional cycling team. And I forgot about this. I said this to somebody yesterday. I even wrote a business plan for this. And I got to say, I was broker than broke. I was working night jobs. I actually was valeting cars. It was great. You know, if you need them, you know, you're working nights. If you need a day off, you know, no problem, this and that. But I was, you know, two fingering at, you know, 12 o'clock writing proposals because I was cold calling in the morning and working nights to really build this. And that's really where the humble beginning is. And ironically, this fall, we're going to have the race in Baltimore, which I am involved with. I think the finish is right next to the Hyatt where I used to work. And so there's just all this irony, full circle. You know, here I am coming back to Baltimore this fall with our men's program, but also this is where it got its start, how this all came together. And ironically, as we were building this, as I was, you know, two fingering and trying to make, you know, as many calls as I can, a really good friend of mine, David Scharf, he's a doctor in Baltimore, said, you need to speak to John Kelly, who was sponsoring his club at the time. Mm-hmm. And he says, I think John is, going to be interested in hearing about this and see where it goes. And I met with John. He was really intrigued. And that was 2006, 2005.
Yep.
Took a while to get this thing off the ground, and there's some incredible stories about that. But 2007, I believe, is when we launched Kelly Benefit Strategies, and here we are today with Kelly Benefit Strategies as a sponsor of the team.
Yeah.
Currently, that's a long relationship.
That's a testament. So, is this correct? Kelly Benefit Strategies segues to, I want to say, Optum.
It was actually, so we had a few renditions of the team. It was Kelly Benefit Strategies. Then it became Kelly Benefit Strategies Medifast, or was it?
Yeah.
It may have been Kelly Benefit Strategies Medifast before. And ironically, I worked with Medifast years before because they were sponsoring our mountain bike team.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So it was
relationship business.
All these crazy twists and turns, and it just amazing. But Kelly Benefit Strategies. Then it became Kelly Benefit Strategies Optum Health.
Uh-huh.
And then Optum went through a brand change, Optum Health went through a brand change into Optum. And that's where, I think 11 years ago or more, we became Optum Pro Cycling.
Which is at some point segued to Rally Pro Cycling, which has at some point segued to the current rendition, Human Powered Health.
Powered Health, which is something it's a what's the right word? Brand passion, brand positioning, something we've used for the past 12 years, 11 years.
Yep.
And it's what we think is really great to express, the values and what we want to instill in individuals to be accountable for your health, go beyond your what's the word? Beyond your capabilities, mm-hmm. and be the best you can be.
Yeah.
And I think it's really relevant in today's world. Healthy living is very important. I'm in my 50s now, and never really thought that would happen for some reason. I mean, when I say that, I just can't believe I'm 52, but I'm very conscious of my health and want to be, and want to really live the healthiest life that I can lead.
Sure.
And go beyond any type of potential that I may have.
It stood out to me, maybe it was with some iteration of Optum, that the sponsor was known for promoting healthy living. Exactly what you're saying. It's like, as a healthcare provider, which I believe they are, I could be incorrect, it's in their best interest to keep their clientele healthy. You don't want to be spending money to treat a patient with chronic disease. And now,
I mean, you look at, and I can't take credit for this. This was John Kelly, years ago when I first met him. He's like, cycling's healthy, right? And I'm like, yeah. But I remember John telling me, and this is 2006, 2007, John being in the benefits business, that he would go to his clients and say, hey, I'm sorry, your rates are going up. This is a common thing. Our population ages, rates go up. And he's like, I need something that exemplifies healthy living, healthy lifestyle, healthy just way of life to our clients, their employees, and also my employees, and what we stand for. And I give a lot of credit to John. He's like, would it be cool to have, healthy brands associated with this, and we're all under one brand mission, mm-hmm. and you come to where we are now, and what is that mission? It's Human Powered Health. We work with Optum, which is an unbelievable organization, 325,000+ people. We've been working with them for years. I mean, unbelievable, size of a company. And we work with Thorne Health Tech, which they just came on board. Great company, great product. I use it myself. I do feel healthier. I'm sleeping better at night. Uh-huh. It aligns very well. And then you also put in the bicycle and the bicycle components and the lifestyle that we have through cycling. We're out there wanting people to recognize, healthy living, go beyond your capabilities, go beyond your potential. And I'll add this, just enjoy your life is what it can be.
Yeah. Is it strange to swim against the stream? Meaning, in this very traditional sport, teams are known for their title sponsor. Name a cycling team, and there's a product behind that, or a company behind that title sponsor name. So now being called Human Powered Health, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. There's no direct entity. You're not going to go to humanpoweredhealth.com and find a flooring business, to use a very iconic Belgian company as an example.
Yeah. No, is it different? It is. I think the world changed in March of 20, and I think that includes marketing and brand positioning and things like that. We also, in America, and I assume it's globally, the Great Resignation. I think, brands need to stand for something, need to believe for something, need to engage their employees in something, and nothing better, especially in today's world, that, we don't need to look any further. Get people healthy. I would want my employees to live the healthiest, our employees to live the healthiest life that they can have. I want everybody to live the healthiest life they can have. And I think, and this is why we did it when we did it. I think maybe 5 years ago, this may not have been as easier or as easy to do. I think it's very relevant in today's world. And we get emails from people all over the world. Mm-hmm. I recall an email from a race promoter. He's like, I don't really know much about your team, but I want you in a race because I had some health issues and I had, X, Y, and Z, and I want you here because you have a mission behind wow. you. You have a passion behind you. And I'm very fortunate. We have an unbelievable organization. We got great people working here. They're a lot smarter than I am. And when we started talking about this, it was like, yeah, let's do it. And I have to say our partners, very much engaged, and we're going to see more human powered health out there.
Yeah.
But it's something very relevant in today's world. And I hope if we change one life, then mission accomplished. I hope we can do more than that. But I know, this is very important to me and important to our organization, and it fits very well for everybody. Yeah.
That's a perfect answer. If I talk about your team and your organization, which I have found myself doing more and more over the past, call it 3 or 4 years, your longevity speaks volumes. Often people will come to the sport, they might run a team for 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, and they're gone by the wayside. It's got to be a cutthroat business. There is great value in that bottom dollar. And I think people come into the sport and often think pie in the sky, hey, we're going to create a cycling team and then we're racing the Tour de France a half dozen years later. Your consistency in a very linear, positive, upward direction throughout, I think speaks volumes.
Thank you.
A, tell me how much of that has been purposeful when you were back in 2006 planning this team, and B, what do you see as the future? Is there an end goal? Is it the Tour de France? Is it something else?
Sure. Yeah. The first question. Yeah. It's been an amazing journey, and I'll tell you, Ted, it's been a blink of an eye.
Yeah,
I remember, 2007, Downers Grove, big teams, that's when things really came together for us, and we won the national championships at the US Crit. Mm-hmm. Martin Jalbert, John Kelly was there. We had clients of Kelly there, raining cats and dogs. And trust me, I
remember that
was a major accomplishment for everybody involved. But it's a business for us. It's very important. We have goals, objectives, things like that. And I work with, I have the good fortune of working with a tremendous amount of professionals in the sport. The sport of cycling. We have organic growth coming out of America. We've been doing this a very long time. We take what we do very serious. And there is an end goal to this. I do want this organization to be fielding not one team in the Tour de France, but 2. This is a very exciting summer for us. Mm-hmm. Major goal for me. It's not, for your listeners, it's the Tour de France Femmes. It's the first modern day, I call it modern day, first time in 35, 40 years. I forget what the years are for a women's Tour de France. And we're one of the teams that is honored to participate and represent the United States, but also represent our mission. Again, going back to that mission at a global scale. But it is, somebody said to me, this is not the women's Tour de France. This is the first Tour de France. And I hope for however long I'm doing this, that we'll be able to continue with that trajectory and someday have our men's program compete as well with their female teammates. This is one team. This has always been that way. One team for 11 years. We've had male and female athletes. It was something I learned from the mountain bike days where we had men's cross country, women's cross country, men downhill, women's downhill. But there's nothing more exciting when I see everybody together. And then I also have to do a double take. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of mechanics. It's a lot of bikes. It's a lot of athletes. And that's where Jonas and I kind of shake our heads and go, oh my God, this has really been an incredible journey. So, that's our goal. And then, certainly we're all competitive too. And I am competitive. What do you want to do when you're there? You want to be the best you can be. And that's a whole other topic, whole other journey. But I think I have the trajectory to do it. And I always say we're going to do it the right way. I don't know what that means exactly, but we're not going to rush it. We're going to do it. When we do it, we're going to be prepared. We're going to be ready for it. And we're going to perform. And that's what we're seeing, this growth go. And you know what I'm talking about, because you were overseas racing in the World Tour. It's not easy to do. And it's not for everybody. And it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. And I'm just, we're doing it. I mean, just doing it, chipping away at it. Yeah. I get up in the morning, I watch races all morning. I'm on the phones with the service course, with the directors. I'm on the phone with, everybody over there. And it's just so exciting. So exciting to see.
That's a perfect question that I had tip of tongue. What is your day-to-day? Meaning, what is the day-to-day of a owner of a professional cycling team?
Great question. What is my day-to-day? It changes every single day. And that's one of the beautiful things about what I do. On any given day, I could meet with a CEO and I could be, 2 hours later in a suit with mechanics looking at a bike.
Yep.
Or, at a wind tunnel. In the olden days, I would go to everything. Now there's in our organization, there's people that are much better at all, whatever they do, and they do a lot, whether it's mechanics 1 years, we have a COO, CFO. I mean, by far, they're much better than I ever could do it. But my day starts typically in the summertime. I know races are on, so I watch the races and I pick up the phone, I answer emails. I'm on the phones a lot. I travel quite a bit. One thing that's kind of new in my life is I do get out for a ride.
Excellent.
When I can. But some days it's at 4:00, some days it's 8:00, some days it's at 6:00 or even 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's become really, really important to me. And again, going back to, human powered health, I see it. I want to live a healthy life. So, in the earlier days, my day would start when the phone rings, and it rings pretty early. And now it's not so much, but I'm on the phones a lot. I'm doing a lot of emails, and then I'm also doing a lot of reading. I like to read about businesses, what would be a good fit for our organization, what would be a good fit for cycling. I also, we're in the virtual world, even though we have an office and we have a lot of people here in Minneapolis where, I talk to our service course. I talk to head of performance, which is Jonas. I try to speak to Pat McCarty and Clark and, everybody.
Yeah.
Because one of the nice things about, and you touched on this, longevity, Andrew Bajadali raced for us. And now he's our head women's director, and Joanne with the women's team. And I like to be in the know, and what can I do to help is the question. What can I do? What can I do? And I think I probably call these people that probably say a little too much on certain days, but they also enjoy it. And that's something very special to me. Yeah. These are good people.
Sure. I've spent quite a bit of time on your website recently. This is out of left field, but yeah, as you say, names like Bajadali, I mean, he's a great former racer, top tier domestic nemesis of mine for years. one of the biggest names that stands out, and I didn't even realize he was there, was Alex Sanz Vega, who I believe is a sports director. He was a director of mine on Cervelo test team, and I've to this day never had someone in the sport who was so who cared for his athletes so much, and so involved and wants nothing but success for the athlete. And you know, he was sports director for Carlos Sastre the year after he'd won the Tour. So it speaks volumes.
Yeah,
to
no,
that kind of person.
I just met Alex this spring.
Mm-hmm.
I returned to Europe after this travel restrictions were lifted, and I went to Girona and spent a good 10, 12 days. And pretty much every day I saw Alex and we'd go out for a ride.
Nice.
And that's the best way to get I think anybody's, but undivided attention and get to know, I like to get to know people, and especially within this organization. I want to know about their families. I want to know what got them into cycling, and Alex in particular, I spent a lot of time with and really enjoyed being with him. Yeah. And I can't wait to go back and see him. And Hendrik Rendant, I haven't met, but I think I had a poster on my wall of him growing up, and Clark Sheehan, who is my age, and it turns out like we have a lot in common. And Eric Wahlberg has been with us for years. He's back there. Eric is man of many push-ups and sit-ups, and he's living his life as healthy as he can be. And obviously Pat McCarty, who's very dear to me. And then Jonas. I mean, same thing. Every day I got to spend time with Jonas. And once these restrictions were lifted, it really became apparent to me once I got there how important it was for me to be with everybody. The riders, I got to meet riders who've been in on this team and are employed for 2-3 years and just haven't had a chance to meet them.
Yeah.
Which is really odd, because I'm not like that. I like to know everybody. So that was really exciting for me. And then to meet, to reconnect with Ben King and Chad Haga, who got their starts with us. And all of a sudden I'm meeting their kids too.
Yeah, that's full circle.
And that's kind of like, okay, I've been doing this a long time, real long time. So, that Alex Sanz Vega, great guy, everybody, Jeff Brown, who runs the service course there. I mean, these are all wonderful people. And here in Minneapolis too, we have we got a handful of people here. Sam Wiebe, creative director, pretty much our CMO. He's been with us. I want to say he's been 13, 14 years at my hip, lives 2 miles away, work in the office, does an amazing job. And the website that all came through him. So it is unique. Very. Yeah.
So how about, we've just named a lot of very talented people. Couple thinking of in particular are Chad Haga, Ben King, Sepp Kuss, and Brandon McNulty. They all come to mind. They've all been part of the program over the years. Now, as we look at American road racing, Sepp Kuss and Brandon McNulty are two of America's best, hands down, and two of the world's best. This is a sport that probably every sport hinges on talent and money. So the more you have, the better you can be. It's sort of the New York Yankees and Dallas Cowboys situation. How much of your job is a scramble for dollars? The pursuit of money to make this machine go.
It's a big part of it, for sure. It's something that we're 100% supported through partnerships and sponsorships, and it is something that we work very hard on, and we're constantly building decks and creating pitches and getting on the phones. And again, I keep coming back to this, March of 2020, that world changed too.
Yeah.
I used to do a tremendous amount of cold calling. I can't, in today's world, people work from home. They don't have their voicemails forwarded. There's more ways to dodge cold calls than ever before. It's hard to find people, but it's something that we do all the time. We work very hard on it. And it's something that we're focused on. And there is an ebb and flow to it. But, between We have some people that work on it. We have work with an agency. I'm very aggressive on it as well. It's very, very important. But with that said, I truly believe in the power of sports marketing. I truly believe in marketing, and I 150% believe in the power and marketability of professional cycling, participatory, but also racing. So, these are the things that I've been doing for years. And yes, it is a very hard effort, and it's very labor intensive, but this is what I get really excited about. And if it makes sense to me, and you have to deal with rejection pretty well too.
Yeah.
A lot of rejection, but if it makes sense to me, that's where it really, really motivates me. And I have to say, a lot of the business opportunities that we've had is coming from cold call, past and present. And we've had unbelievable partners over the years, and some of them are not with us anymore, but without their support, without those brands and those people working with us, we wouldn't be here today. And I'm very grateful for everybody that's involved, at this moment. And I couldn't say any better. We have unbelievable partners, and a lot of them are coming to France for the first day of the women's Tour de France, the Tour de France Femmes, and joining me in this major milestone.
That's huge.
Yeah.
This question is going to be sort of an amalgamation of everything we've been talking about. Maybe as a result of the pandemic and just sort of the climate of American bike riding, gravel riding is hugely popular. You can't go to your local bike shop, or now that supply chain is actually opening up, you can begin to, but for a good long while, you couldn't get a bike. Meanwhile, road bikes are easier to get. They're exorbitantly expensive, and they're not necessarily being sold in the same number as gravel bikes because gravel is participatory. It is for the masses. It is sort of human powered health in a nutshell. It's getting people out and exercising who would otherwise never exercise. Also, hinging back on what we talked about maybe a half hour ago, European road racing is alive and well and strong. Your background is in domestic road racing, like those Kelly Benefit Strategies days. That was in the heyday of road racing. So if you look in your crystal ball, what do you see? What's happening now globally, domestically, road racing, gravel racing? What the heck is happening?
I am of the belief, and I'm sure there's a lot of the listeners out there that could disagree in this. I think cycling is, on the racing front, is very viable, and it's seen by many, many people. Unfortunately, where is the racing? It's primarily in Europe now.
For sure.
And that is because of the pandemic, flat out. Racing was able to continue. It was challenging at first, but it became easier and easier and easier. And I just see the crowds, like Tour de Hungary. I mean, we went Tour of Hungary. The crowds were unreal. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Part of me wanted to be there. Just the crowds were unreal in that race. But here in America, gravel. I think mountain biking's on a little bit of a comeback. Unfortunately, everybody's a lot younger. Like, I go to Sea Otter, I don't know anybody racing mountain bikes anymore. That generation has gone away. But I do think, and it starts with Baltimore. What I said about the race going on there. We need races back in the cities, and we got one race in the United States, major metropolitan market, TV market. I hope that we're going to have a ton of people on the side of the roads. It starts in the north, ends in the city. It's going to be pretty impressive. This is what I'm seeing. And I think there's some formula that can be created out of that. And you got to remember, it's been canceled twice before due to COVID.
Sure.
So the partners are there, the sponsors are there. That only galvanized the people that are involved. It changed in local government with the election. So it's a new mayor. A lot of changes, but yet the people, they persevered. And that's what John Kelly, Steve Brenner, Chris Aaronholt, Terry Hasseltine with the state. United Healthcare is the major partner, the presenting partner of the event.
Nice.
Everybody stayed true to it. And I think we're going to see some more exciting events come 2023 and hopefully 24, and hopefully bring back the power of, what we used to have, Tour of California. You did Tour of California. I was there, Georgia and Missouri, and see that resurgence. I really hope it's coming back. I do see it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
Because I see people riding bikes everywhere. Minneapolis. I was in Los Angeles. I mean, blown away with how many people ride bikes in NorCal. I go out there. I told you.
Yeah.
People are riding bikes, and I think that's going to also create some excitement when racing truly returns. Like we have one race in the Nationals. That's what our team's racing, Nationals and the Maryland race. Now you also have Redlands. I know Joe Martin's going on. Yep. Great to have those races back. Sea Otter. I was blown away by how many people were at Sea Otter. So the energy is there. It's a hard ask for the promoters. They are incredible. Every one of them. These are incredible people. But I live in Minneapolis, deep history of racing in Minnesota. I don't know of any real pro race in this area.
Yeah.
Which I would love to bring our athletes to. So I see that changing, and it's something that I'm getting more involved in too.
Nice.
Like we're using what we were able to create in Maryland and kind of use it as a recipe for other cities. I think is the direction I would go.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's outstanding. I mean, be the change you want to see as the product of that domestic road racing scene. Like, you were talking about the super heyday when you could be racing multiple times a day, all up and down the East Coast. I mean, it did have that Belgian feel. The Fitchburg Longsjoes and the what became the race in Minneapolis, Nature Valley Grand Prix. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Altoona and
sure.
I mean, I remember racing Tour de Moor in somewhere in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I mean, these were big races. I mean, for amateur, pro-am, and then you had pro. I see this coming back. It just is a matter, we can't. I can't put a date on it, but I truly believe that. And now you have gravel, mountain biking, NICA League. NICA is amazing. These kids are amazing. These parents are amazing. I went to a NICA event last fall here in Minneapolis, and it was like going to a Norman National.
Yeah.
The crowds were a little, they were not 20,000, but I would say there was probably 3,000 or 4,000 people there with trailers.
Yeah.
The parents with trailers and tents, and it's the whole weekend and the kids and the teachers. And I was blown away. Like, I didn't grow up with this at all. And I think there's a lot of talent with the athletes that there's potential there to build, American athletes. I think there's a lot of energy there. And I think what NICA's done is an amazing job. So, the question is, how do we get those kids into road racing, and how, instead of football, soccer, whatever the season is here, the season with NICA is in the fall. In the summer, a lot of these kids are doing other things. They're not racing bikes. So how do you pull that all together? That's something for people a lot smarter than I am, but I don't think it's too challenging, for sure.
I love it. Yeah, that's my hope as well. And no disagreement. Yeah, you go to Sea Otter felt like the festival of the decade. And part of it was just having not been around so many people for so long. The vibe felt right. I'm curious. I don't feel like there's been any race promoter who has made a great deal of wealth domestically, and I could be totally wrong. I mean, the goal of a race promoter is to put on a great event and be on the sidelines. And you said your friend who created and ran Sea Otter, over the course of his time creating that event, he walked away with a pretty fat check. I hope so. Hopefully. Well, anytime Lifetime buys you out, you can guarantee you're making some fair money.
Yeah, I think Rick had left already by then, but Rick Sutton, he put on the Napa World Cup. He put on other events. I mean, he was an event promoter, and I don't know if those guys are around anymore. You have medalists, obviously. You have a few others. Dave Chauner. I mean, Dave. I mean, what some people don't know is Dave shut down New York, where I think it was the Verrazano or I forget, Citibank Classic. This is way before my day. 84, 85, Phil Anderson won it after the tour. I mean, they were closing New York. I mean, they were racing over the bridges, and that just will never happen again. I think, I don't know. the way the world.
With the will, there's a way. With enough money, it can happen, and that's my point. I'm not saying that a race promoter needs to figure out a way to get rich, but it can't be a voluntary job. And I feel like that's why there are so many of these races that have existed and are now gone by the wayside, because it ended up being voluntary and they're getting chewed out left, right, and center. It seems like a thankless job.
The pandemic hits and you can't have anything. So, it is, that's a big audible coming at you that you don't see. And hats off to Redlands putting on a great race. Gila, Rob Laybourne at Air Force is always, he puts on a great race there, and very true to what he does there. Tom Schuler has his races. Tom and I know each other from years ago. So, you got people out there doing it. Mm-hmm. It's just how do you do more of it? And then when you talk about pro races, how do we elevate that? Mm-hmm. Television time. What's on the phone? Tour Tracker.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get all that in front of a partner?
It's really cool to see. I call it the golden age of media right now. Like you said, you can turn on your phone and watch 3 different bike races if the day is right on these GCN apps. I think it's just one day, but we're going to be able to see Joe Martin stage race as much as you're able to see the Giro on GCN
absolutely
this particular weekend.
I was in a meeting in 99 with an ad. It was Saatchi and Saatchi, a big ad firm, and they were looking at cycling for one of their clients. I remember somebody got up, like the guy who headed up the account, and he's like, "You know what you need? You needed a cycling channel."
Yeah.
And this is when there was the golf channel, and I think it still exists today. I'm not sure, but
for sure.
Every sport had their own channel, and he's like, "You need a cycling channel. We have our own cycling channels, and it is GCN, and it is the internet, and it is Eurosport, and it is going to be Peacock and NBC in July." Mm-hmm. As someone who came from years ago and was doing the same thing that I'm doing now, to see that change. I mean, in my day of racing, you would call in 1-900 number and find out if Greg LeMond won the Tour, and it's like 3 hours later and you're paying 99 cents a minute, where they're like, Greg LeMond won the Tour. The media access and the information access over the years has just been second to none. I mean, it's unbelievable. And for me, Sunday, it started out with our women racing in Spain. Then I watched the Tour of Hungary final day. And then I watched Trobriand in France.
Yeah.
And by noon, I got off the couch and I went out for a bike ride.
That's fantastic.
But, 3 races that our athletes were racing in, all different parts of the world. And I was sitting on a couch and the kitchen table and doing it here in Minnesota, watching and texting and emailing and even some phone calls. That's great in my, I like that. That's
no disagreement. I love it.
There were a few mountain bike races too going on, I think.
Oh, exactly. You can watch the World Cups. It's crazy. This is maybe opening up too much of a can of worms. I think back to sometime in the late 2010s, and Oleg Tinkov, who had, this Russian oligarch, had poured millions, tens of millions of dollars at cycling, and he ended up leaving the sport. And he says, sort of, F it, no one wants to help me fight the UCI and the ASO. These very staunch, traditional money-making, the UCI and ASO are certainly making money, entities being, let's call it, contrasted by the teams that are just sort of in this repetitive order. Do you think that the current cycling model is all over the place? Like, you run a different program than EF runs, than De Koenig runs, than Ineos runs. Do you think there is are we currently in a successful model, or are you leading the way in a successful model, or is this very heterogeneous type of model? Is that the way cycling is going to be for the indefinite future?
Great question. ASO, UCI, I've been communicating with them for years. I've met with them for years. We have great relationships with all. I think we're leading the way with what works for us. Yeah. But the one thing I do know is there is a model there is no specific model that exists, but what works for us is this model. We're here in America. We work with American brands that also sponsor, for example, Optum sponsors the Dallas Cowboys. Optum sponsors the Super Bowl. Yeah. Optum sponsored, whatever they want. I mean, corporate America can sponsor whatever they want. So there's certain things that we need to do to manage and have accountability with our partners. And we work very hard on that. So, Oleg Tinkoff came in, he left. He I wanted to say disrupted a balance that existed. Mm-hmm. We work with the balance that exists. I mean, I can't fight going upstream. I mean, we're mandated by the UCI. We work within the framework of that. And sometimes it works in our favor, sometimes it doesn't, but mm-hmm. We obviously, it all flows very well together. So, I think, in some ways we are leading, but it's no different than a traditional stick and ball sport. There's a front office and there's a back end. We have a front office that exists with our chief marketing officer, creative officer, our CFO, our COO, Jay Kirker, who you may have raced against mm-hmm. many years ago. Myself, we have graphic designers. We also have a media team based out of London, who's just done an amazing job. That's the front office. And then you have the back end, the field, the competitive theater. And that's where Jonas Carney comes in, and all the directors, all the athletes, all the mechanics. And that's a whole other logistical complexity put in front of us. Where do team cars go? Out flying athletes in, out, picking them up. You know the drill. It's like going to war in some respects, God forbid. But there's a lot of cars moving. There's a lot of trucks moving, and which bikes are on what. And they do an incredible job on that. So, I think great question. It's not easy, but I don't think, working with the NFL is easy, and Major League Baseball is easy, and hockey and all that. And we're able to work within the framework and continue to grow year after year.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I dig it. Well, whatever you're doing well.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's been an incredible journey. And as much as I'd love to take credit for it, I can't. There's a lot of people here, and it didn't start, the success is not with Charles Aaron. It's with the whole organization.
Right on. So you've been very generous with your time. Here we are approaching an hour. Wrap up with what I call my traditional final three questions. Number one, your favorite place to ride a bike. Number two, the number one place you would like to ride a bike that you've never ridden. Number three, living or otherwise, with whom would you like to go for a bike ride?
Great questions. I really like Calabasas. And I had the good fortune of being really close there for the winter, and I love it there. I think the riding there is great. The weather is absolutely amazing. I'll tell you, when I got out there, I'd go out for a ride. I'd ride up the canyon roads, Old Topanga. You know that area.
I know that area very well.
And, I'd ride up Fernwood, and I'm huffing and puffing, and I felt like I was an 18-year-old kid trying to get into shape. And I'd go home and I'd go to bed. Yeah. I mean, I would go out in the afternoon and I'd go straight to bed because I was so tired. But I got it. I feel like I got myself in a little bit of shape. The riding there is beautiful. It was very peaceful for me. The people there, unbelievable. There's a great cycling culture. Peddler's Fork, Robbie and Gideon.
Sure.
I got to drink a lot of their coffee and work from there. Just amazing. And then, where would I like to go? I think, I've had the really good fortune of really, like you, traveling all over the world, and I got to do it on a bike or bring a bike or for a bike race. Mm-hmm. I love Girona, being with the athletes and the staff that we have there. And this last trip was really moving for me. I was sad to leave. I was really sad to leave everybody. Awesome. I felt like we have somewhat of a family there, and that was hard, and Alex being one of them. I really, really enjoyed being and getting to know everybody in the cycling culture there. I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak French. I speak English. But seeing the international cycling culture that exists there, and everybody for the most part spoke English. And I really have to say, like, everybody was friendly. I went out for a ride. I ran into a Stana rider, and turns out he was from South Africa, and we chatted for a while, and he got me back to Girona, and it was great. And it's just, for someone who's been in the sport for forever, that was really moving for me. And then the last question, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but we haven't gone for a bike ride, so I'll put you in that group. But who would I want to go for a bike ride with? That's a really great question. I'm really big on learning. You go on for a bike ride with me, and if we're not going hard, we're doing a lot of talking. So, I don't know who that would be off the top of my head. A good person, a fun person, somebody I could really have a good conversation with. I love Mel Brooks, so I don't know if Mel rides a bike, but man, that would be fun. Or Rob Reiner, or
excellent.
But,
all good answers.
It would be a lot of fun, but somebody I could really, really get to know. Yeah. And that's the best way. Best thing about bike riding is you do get to know people.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Well,
thank you.
I look forward to someday maybe riding a bike in Girona or Calabasas with you, ending up at Peddler's Fork there.
And if not, Healdsburg. I'm out in Healdsburg for a charity ride next month. So who knows? But our paths will cross for sure. And please, keep in mind Baltimore.
Yeah.
Come to the race. Love to, get to meet you in person, where we can just formally talk, but you're always welcome at anything we do.
Appreciate it. That's fantastic. Yeah, I know Chris Aaronholt very well, so it's cool to see his name behind the event.
Yep, Chris with medalist is spot on. He's amazing. Closing down Baltimore. This is not an easy feat by any means. So hats off to him.
Excellent. All right. Well, you've been generous with your time. Charles, thank you very much for your past hour and sharing some insight, and look forward to seeing you around.
Great, and thank you. And I know you got some races coming up here too. So, you doing Unbound?
Yeah, we're both we're threading a needle here. My wife is due anytime in the next, call it 3 weeks, and Unbound is a week and a half away. So that's going to be in the TDD category.
Just a little excitement for you.
Yeah, that's exactly. Great. As someone said, you're going to win either way. I said that's the easiest and perfect answer.
Well, all I want to hear is good things about both. So just be safe, and thank you again for your time.
Appreciate it. All right.
Cheers.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.